Welcome everybody to another Eqafe Google Hangout. Tonight we will be discussing the Eqafe interview, Seth, the Defining Living Sustainability. And this interview was in a series of interviews. This is the third interview, so there's two before this that it goes more into detail about this last interview. But Tormod and I are going to discuss this last one specifically, though I suggest taking and listening to the whole series because obviously you'll get more out of it. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my guest Tormod from Norway. Hi Tormod.
Hello from Norway. Greetings.
Thanks for being here. I know it was tricky to get on here. We had a couple of technical difficulties, but we finally made it. And I appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's start off, Tormod. You've had some experience with this being Seth. He obviously was someone in history that I don't know much about him. I never researched him or anything. So Tormod, why don't you just give a little synopsis of who he was and how you related to him?
Yeah. So I had before I found the first interview on Eqafe from Dimensions about this existence called Seth. I first Seth, isn't that an Egyptian god? I thought, but anyways, I did some investigating on this, and it seems that this was a channeler, a medium, you might say, from the United States in the 60s, I think. 60s or 70s, I think it was in the 60s, called Jane Roberts. Jane Roberts. She would experience being a medium, being a channel for this being called Seth that identified himself or itself as Seth. And there was these sessions. More or less famous in the New Age movement and so on and so on, spiritual movements of the 60s, this being Seth would talk through this channel, this lady Jane Roberts, in many sessions where this being Seth would speak and talk about existence and what shall I say, life and death and the afterlife and so on, and create from this channeling of this existence, this being through this lady's body, a sort of a following, a movement of spirituality being it in the 60s, which has now been sort of evoked a little bit with our Eqafe investigation. Dimensions, going in and checking out what was that really about? What happened back then? What was there going on? What was happening? And what was Seth? And a bit of the background, some details about the programming and such, and the existence as of today, 30 or 40 or 50 years later on. What is the remains of this movement, and what is remains of this being or this existence in the beyonds of Seth? Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. And what was your experience with Seth in the past? How did you relate to him?
Well, I had not heard about Seth before this Eqafe interview popped up. I did some investigating on YouTube and I listened to this lady, Jane Roberts, having this voice through her speaking, this channeling of this being then called Seth as her sort of, what shall I say, interdimensional connection from the other side. And it is learned that Seth and Jane Roberts and this movement, these followers, these listeners and opinionators from back in the 60s would then create movements back then based on that had no, what shall I say, sustainability. It wasn't like a fundamental self-honest thing. it was more like floating and drifting, like a business thing, like a follow me, I'm popular, I mean, with the New Age movement kind of ideal. Though, I mean, some say that this Seth creator and this lady, Jane Roberts, really was the kickstart of the New Age movement. And there are lots of thoughts and interest about this. So it's interesting. Both channels and mediums, like we know, is an interesting topic and not considered in the mass of the system in this world. How such a thing really can occur, can and could and have occurred in this world as we know it, and beyond that with Eqafe. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you got kicked back, Tormod.
Come again?
I can hear my voice. Okay, it's gone now. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, I can relate to that channeling point in terms of it's not good or bad, though it's something to look at and research and investigate if you are interested in that. Though as I researched, before I found Destiny and before I started walking this process with Destiny process, I was very much into like the Conversations with God books. Ramatha was another woman or being that was like a channeler. And within that, what I realized and what I kind of got, I didn't really see that being the solution was based on the convoluted nature of the message. I think one thing that distincts the Destiny and Eqafe material with those types of materials is that Eqafe has solutions that each one can practically apply that. Of course, you have to test for yourself and live it and see how it applies within your life, as I have for myself. And it has supported me to become more grounded, more stable person, able to deal with my mental issues and things that I've always had in my life that these books and things had a kind of like a light fairy message in terms of it was a positive message, and it was something that was not what we really see and hear in the mainstream type flow of news and material. Though, yeah, it just didn't have a solution, and that's why I was drawn towards the Destiny videos on YouTube in the beginning, and then Eqafe and things like that. And why I've applied this process for years is because it actually has supported me to change within myself and have that experience and experience of expanding myself and growing in a way of support, not only for myself but others in my world. And when something goes awry or goes wrong or I make a mistake, I have the ability to come back to myself and say, okay, what are my tools? What am I going to walk? And the Destiny process has supported me each step of the way in terms of the tools and how to walk it. And that was one of the messages in this interview series is to, question who are you within the material that we're listening to in Eqafe and Destiny and the Soul School of Ultimate Living interviews. How have you experienced that, Tormod, the material and the message that Seth brought through in this interview?
Yeah, this Seth creature says a few things that is really interesting, and one of those things is that he or she emphasizes that Destiny is the one group who has now the potential, the know-how, the tools, the insight about how to actually go about to, save existence, save ourselves, to actually be able to we are the ones with the missing pieces, the missing link or the tools to save ourselves from the disparity and the abyss that we are looking into of this world system of life here on Earth, as it has been for so many decades now, centuries. And it is also very clear that, to me, it is very much like a push, a very distinct push to be more genuine in my living, to be more accurate in my defining of words, to be more lively in the defining of words, to be more confident and lively, and to have more courage, really, and do not just do not accept anything less than my utmost potential. I mean, I have a few decades to live on Earth, and then I go on to some other existence that I have no idea what is, but the fundament of that eternal existence after this is made in this life. So I must do whatever I can in this life to create a good life for all as best as I can, and I know that what this is, from my reckoning, is for me to live words, to redefine and live words within myself, and to not redefine words matter, but redefine myself, to change my beingness, to change myself as a human being. And that is, yeah, so to be more what shall I say, consistent and live words, and to see how I can nurture my living words. How can I have a living word? Like right now, I live the word confidence, very confidence, and how can I nourish this word within myself, and by that also nourish myself as living of this word. It's really interesting, and it's a beautiful math, how I can live this word confidence. And see, I was given support by another Estonian here the other day about how that can define, look at the word that come, find the dance, come find the playfulness, confidence, come find dance. So for me, it opened up a door there, Pandora's box, you might say, or kind of worms, or however you word it. How I would look at the word dance, which I've used for my survival, my expression for many years, dance, and be expressive that way with moving my body. And that come find the dance is really a very nice grounding point for me to experience, and to see that, okay, what does it mean for me to find my dance, to find my spirit or playfulness, you might say. Yeah, it's really interesting to work with that word confidence. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the what's the word? I guess expanded nature of words is kind of like, in a way, mind-blowing, because we don't realize that we are living where this actually was brought up to me by a buddy in the desteni process, and they said, I was sharing about some issues I was having or something, and they were saying that these words are what you're living now. So say antisocial and insecurity, things like that. So how can I take those words and transform them into something that is of support? So say the word insecurity. What I looked at was, obviously, if I'm insecure, how can I become more secure within myself? And through that word secure, I saw the word cure being solution. So in that moment where I become insecure, I can look internally and see what do I have to do in that moment to become secure, to find a solution for myself, so I am feeling more confident. And, I've also looked at the word confident as well. And confidence is something that is where you have created a solid ground within something that you're doing. So I kind of saw it practically, like if I am starting off in a new job, I'm not confident in that job as of yet because I have so much to learn. So looking at the words more practically, I can walk that process of learning and putting my whole self into the job or whatever task I'm learning about. And through that process of knowing that I gave it my all, I gave, you know, the best of myself in terms of pushing myself to research, learn, expand. Through that, you become confident in yourself because you have the experience of what you've walked to become who you are in that moment as a confident person in your job, say, or the task you walked. So I've walked the living word process to, you know, use the word like secure, as a, like Tormod said, like a reference point to know in the moment, okay, I'm feeling insecure now. What can I do? Oh yeah, secure. Oh yeah, secure. See the solution. So how can I live the solution?
Mhm.
So this living word process is very much a living process in a way too, and that's kind of something that Seth brought up in the interview with the Eqafe series. So do you have anything to share on that point, Tormod? How this living word process, or even just maybe walking an example, or how you have walked this living word process?
I've written out quite a lot of living words that are on the Destiny forum, English version, living words. There I have about maybe 30 or something words that I redefined. That was
Those have actually supported me a lot, Tormod, so thanks for doing it.
That's cool to hear because such feedback is, no, that's gold. So yeah, and also within that, doing such a thing over some month, I would write so and so often a few words, and I would feel like I would sort of diminish myself because I think it's not, I haven't done enough, it's not properly done, or it should be done otherwise, or look at this new definition I see here from this blog, it's just like something else, and I compare myself, and so there's always possibilities of what shall I say, failure. There's always possibilities of stepping into old habits of self-judgment, for instance, and because and that is why I must look through such a memory and such an event happening and just investigate what is the core points that are nagging me here, that are bothering to me here. What is it in these points that I cannot handle properly and deal with in self-honesty? So to look at them and investigate, find the key words and find solutions. Work on self-forgiveness through the patterning and through the energies, and work out a solution, a living word that I can sustain, that I can nourish, that I can expand within that living word, because we have all the solutions now. And something that Seth also says is that if you don't know what living words or how to do living words in the specific process of redefining and living words as self and changing self, there's Soul, SOUL, School of Ultimate Living, School of Ultimate Living, Soul, on YouTube. Maybe we can add a link to that in this video from YouTube. Soul is a unique service from Soul about how to redefine and live words, literally, how we can work with ourselves and become the change, become wheels of change, you might say, in the bigger picture of human existence and interwovenness, and you know, so we can become living examples, and be those pieces of engine to bring change as ourselves, which is the real change that we know from all the previous beings who told us that if you want to change, start with yourself.
Right.
And so I must, in the deep of me and in all the corners and the angles of me, I must be changed so I can,
yeah. I mean, this process is definitely something that one of the living words that we practice is humbleness, and realizing that, you know, who you are in your living is not your best. I mean, if you look and see within your own mind what kind of thoughts are going through that, and then look at your actions and see at times that you are not your best. I mean, we all within ourselves have to face that. That's one of the main points within this process, is to face who we have become in our minds, in ourselves. And within that, you use a self-forgiveness. You walk the self-forgiveness through writing and speaking to correct yourself. And speaking the words, you are the creator of yourself and of your reality. Yes, we are creators. We are thinking, speaking, and then living our creation. So kind of taking ownership of ourselves and who we are, and within that taking responsibility to see the error, walk the correction, and live the solution. So it's a step-by-step process that takes time, of course, and many ups and downs and falls and you know, backwards stepping and then forward stepping and things like that. So it's not an easy, straightforward process that you will walk, but in terms of the solution and the tools, they're very straightforward, very simplistic in a way in their application of how to do it. But within yourself, you've got to face everything of who you are to be able to reconstruct that inner, say, demons of ourselves to the best, the potential. And this School of Ultimate Living is a great resource to learn how to live words in the process step by step from Sunette, who is walking that process for everybody. So definitely check that out and look at the links. And yeah, I mean, it does take a courage as well. I've redefined the word courage to be something that says core, within it is core gauge. I saw core gauge. So within myself, I'm looking, okay, say I'm in a point of weakness and going into fear. I remember, okay, courage. I need to look within myself. Where is my core? Am I standing within it, or am I hunched over? Am I allowing the mind to consume me and allow those thoughts, or am I in breath? So again, it's these words that support with realigning ourselves back to the best of ourselves, back to a solidity of who we really can become in our living. So yeah, I mean, it's an amazing process and point to walk, and it's challenging as well, because yeah, you have to always apply yourself. It's like he said within the word sustainability, it's a sustenance. You have to live the change within yourself to be able to change your reality. I mean, it's not something that you go and hope something's going to change in reality, or make it about other people that they need to change for you to change, because within that principle, it's erred. I mean, if you are expecting another person to change and you yourself are not going to change yourself, that is never going to add up. The math doesn't add up. So yeah, the math is simplistic as well. Who you are within yourself is what is going to be created out there. So, you know, 1 + 1 = 2. Who you are here is going to create what is there. I don't know if that made sense, but
yeah, it's like so within, so without. What I am within myself, within my very own body and metaphysical existence, such or not, that I am living out what I am within here, within my my mind and everything. And that would be what I project or live out into the world. And I think that I've recently or more and more discovered is to communicate directly with my body, like my torso or my stomach, more to say, my liver or my heart and such organs, my vital organs of my torso would be like sort of a more or less unified communication point through the larger parts of me, through my beingness. So for instance, if I'm having breakfast or maybe having something to eat, and I would be in a slight doubt, should I have this product right here for me now? Should I have this product? And immediately I would, after asking the question, I would know that, okay, my stomach says, now be careful with that. My stomach will tell me very fine variables of answers. It said, no, be careful with that. Or, no, I don't want that. No, stop it. My body will tell me such. It could be very strict with me and say, no, stop it. And if I then go about to eat that thing, then I know that I would be breaking myself down systematically within. And it would literally go into like a sort of a self-punishment mode, which is really horrible to experience. So this is something for me to take on more and more. And you know, there's variables to my body. It's like, it can say, no, stop, this is not good. I don't accept this. Or you're like, yeah, you can have some of that, just a little touch of that, that'd be okay. Or like, yeah, go on, go ahead, this is fine. But then there's lots of variables. The body can communicate with me. And you know, I can speak this sound as my own medium, you might say. I can speak from my gut, saying that, like just now, I was wondering, should I have one more cup of coffee? And I would stand, breathing, sort of clear within myself in front of the dish, and ask myself, could I have one more cup of coffee? And I'd say, and I would feel that the focus would sink into my torso, my body, and that, yes, one more cup of coffee is fine. Like sort of like, but two is not, it didn't say that, but it almost said that, but two is not okay. It was like a subtle in there. So it's like, there's a balance to it always, you know, you gotta balance this and play with it sort of, and be gentle with it as I go, because this is a learning process and really humbling to experience and to gain that intimacy with self. That is just, incredible.
Yeah, it is quite awesome. Yeah, I mean, the experience for me has been equally as humbling, because often, I mean, the process has been for me is like, okay, I see the solution, but I have to walk specific steps, like, to just be the solution is not realistic. You have to, I've realized for myself, I have to walk a process, slow down within myself and learn, okay, what is, say you know, I make a, like for instance, now I am walking a process with waking up in the morning. I am constantly sleeping till like the last minute, and then I get up and then I'm rushed for the whole morning. And so this is something within myself that I know what I have to do to be the solution for this. I just have to wake up and get up. But again, it's self-interest and the ego and your mind as me, wanting to be more comfortable, wanting to get that last amount of sleep that I can get. And so you have to, within yourself, walk that process of change. And the longer that you take, the more diminished, I would say, I become, because again, it is a balance. So if I change in the moment and walk that change, then that is something within me that I become confident in, and that confidence creates a groundedness. And yeah, within that, it's just, then you have to, maybe you found another point that you are not strong in. So that point you have to learn within yourself, okay, what are the words I need to live, or what do I need to do to change myself here? And you have to walk that process and change. So it's a constant point of expansion, I would say. Because one of the other points that I've been looking at and learning for myself as I've been redefining and living words is that a word for me, like one of the points I've been doing is in the mornings I've been living the word self-care, where I give myself a hug and I appreciate within me the best of me and the things that I'm strong in and things like that, to start my morning off in a way of appreciation for who I am and what I've, just for me, and not, because usually I would wake up in a depression type experience. So yeah, I have like a morning routine, and through that I've realized that, it works for a certain amount of time, but then you have to expand beyond that and keep pushing that word of self-care. Okay, what more in my day can I live self-care? So yeah, it's like a constant expansion process of living words, which expands you. So it's like life and like nature. It's constantly expanding, growing, and that's kind of what we as human beings are aligning ourselves to, is the actual flow and reality of life, which is self-created, self-moving, sustainable.
I do that too each morning. Every morning I get out of bed and I say, I embrace, in Norwegian, I say, I embrace myself and the totality of me, my mind, and everything that I will meet in this day. And I say that maybe a couple of times and just embrace myself. And that is something I, at this moment, working on to slow down in the mornings.
Yeah.
Also, I have struggles getting up when the alarm bell rings. Like a little bit of heat in the feet. Oh, goody. But so, and also to, when I do get out of bed, to take it slowly, don't rush. And I have the comfort of living in a Camp Hill village where things are suited into one's, it's not so strict like an ordinary corporate working world. But anyways, focus on, because the morning is the foundation of my total day, and in a mini perspective, my lifetime, like waking up in the morning and going to bed at night, sort of. So my mornings is really important to get a good foundation of slowing down, really, just literally slowing down from that awakening process and doing whatever with the clothes and going upstairs to have some food and so on, to slow down, to be with self, walk with self. And that is also something I've noticed that Seth also really emphasizes, living word process. And to stick with, if you to pick a word, and to just stick with that word and work with that word for some time. Don't give up so easily, because patience is, what shall I say, gold. And I know from before, a couple of years ago, when I started living words, I would live them for a longer time. For a period, been sort of not being too diligent with my living words. Maybe I go moving too fast, perhaps, or changing words too often and just hopping around like in Wonderland, sort of. But now really seeing more the point about sticking to a word, confidence. Let's walk this. Let's see what it has to offer. How can I change within this word? How can I learn from this word? How can I nourish this word within me and myself as this word, and so on? Reflect and consider, write, and share what I find for the generations to come. Yeah.
Yeah. Just kick back. I can hear my voice. Thank you. Yeah, so I totally agree in terms of the the realization that you do have to slow down within yourself to live words. Because, yeah, I mean, I've walked the same process of trying to live like a bunch of words in a short amount of time, because I believe that I need to just keep moving and pushing living words and each word, and slowing down to a point of only working with 1 or 3 words, which I'm doing now per week, is actually more supportive, because in those words I'm substantiating myself more, because I'm like the words now I'm living are like focusing on and pushing myself in terms of expanding myself in them, is complete, commitment, and consistency. And in those words, I have used things in my day that I can practice living these words. So, you know, in my day-to-day living, or in my hour-to-hour living in my day, I have different places where I am living consistency, complete, and commitment. Say, you know, at night there's dishes in the sink, and, you know, my mess from dinner is there. In my mind I go, oh, just do it tomorrow, or you know, I don't really want to do it now. I'll just wait I'll wait an hour and do it later, and then eventually never end up doing it, and it's there in the morning. That was my past, but now I'm living the word complete, so automatically I'm okay, no, I'm not accepting this point of limitation. I'm doing this clean now. I'm getting this done. I'm completing this task that is here. So I go and I clean it up, and it's done. And I realize you waste so much less time by just applying yourself in the moment to be your best than, you know, not walking that potential. And then not only do you have more work for yourself, and it piles up, but within yourself you realize and know within yourself that you're not being self-honest, you're not being your best. So that is, I would say, a self-motivator to indeed expand and become your best. I mean, self-honesty is key in this process, and it's important to redefine that for yourself. It is actually one of the lessons in DIP, so you do walk that process. But yeah, so it's important to redefine words for yourself and walk the education that's out there in terms of the Eqafe site and DIP and School of Ultimate Living that was even mentioned in the Seth interviews. So yeah, there's much out there.
Yeah, I would like to just expand a little bit about a point of slowing down. And, you know, very easily we can go into assuming or thinking that if I just speed up and live many words, that would quantify my process. Mm-hmm. For me, I've tried that, and sort of like I talk for myself, like jumping around in Wonderland and living words, which is not so realistic of me, because I know that it is when I slow down and sort of ground myself and breathe and just really slow down the pace. That is where the quantifying really takes place. Everything is in reverse in this existence, on this earth. Everything is in reverse as we know it. So when I slow down, I can really see the details, the core points, and sort of the raw, self-honest perspective on what is really quantifying my process. That is to slow the fuck down, to take one step at a time. That is something that I keep going back to, because we are so programmed as human beings to think that, okay, much and fast and easy is like the best, because that is how McDonald's and Coca-Cola runs their business and everybody else. And so that is how we are programmed. But that is not the case. We know that such a, like product is not healthy, and so on and so on. Just to quantify the process would mean to literally slow down, take one step at a time, and take one word at a time, and do a more thorough work. That is what I find. Also, a point that I would like to talk about a little bit is about that Seth mentions is that when we look back upon something, and we see and we try to investigate, have I checked that? And we have this voice telling us, oh, that I don't need to look at this point. This point is good. This point of intimacy is, I'm fine with that. I don't need to look at that. Don't need it. That is indicating that we definitely need to go back to secure it again. When we feel that confident voice, you might say, or assuring voice within ourselves, saying that I've done that, it's complete. I don't need to look at that thing anymore. It's done. It's finished. That is proof for us to really go back in integrity, to say that, okay, here is something that I'm obviously trying to hide or suppress or just stack away somehow, and I should go into this point, look at it, investigate it, and see if what it is, and try to find solutions again and patch again. And such a thing is really typical. I mean, what I've learned is that understanding when I understand something is when I learn from the most difficult and challenging events and people around me. Events in my life and people in my life that are the most challenging are my greatest teachers in life. Now that is perhaps a tough pill to swallow for very many, and can be far from practical reality for many to this day, but it is nevertheless how we are structured and how we function as human beings, that how such a thing would follow us, and to always go back and patch and reassess the memory, the pain, or whatever it was from back then, and to just secure it and make sure that to learn again from it, and to really just don't take no for an answer, and investigate further points that you feel like to really
Yeah. That point, the kickback. If you don't mind muting, thank you. The kickback of, oh, I'm sorry, wrong word. The point of, yes, bringing it back to the understanding that we have to become self-responsible. We have to become self-sustaining. We have to be the self-solution. And this is something that we have to learn, because in our minds, if you realize and study what the mind consciousness system is, it's a system that we've accepted and allowed within us to direct us, to create our lives and follow thoughts that, if you look at the thoughts and the outcomes of your behavior, you realize and know that that's not the way I want to live. Like Tormod said, when you face challenges in your life and challenging people, they are the greatest teachers and your greatest gifts, because that experience of challenge is yourself saying, okay, this is something that you're weak in, or you're not standing in self-confidence, or whatever it is that it's a weak point within you. And who are you going to be in this moment? That is going to be your legacy, so to speak. That's something I always focus on in my process and in who I am in my livings, to realize that one day, yes, I've lived my life and I'm out of now, I die and go on to whatever the existence is going to be after life. And was I the best that I could be within my living? Who am I? how am I living? How am I treating other people? And in life, you know, you go into a situation where you get into an argument with someone and you don't stand and you react and become reactive and blame and things like that. Inside, as you walk this process, you become aligned more with your own self-honesty. And that will be a guide for you to realize the change in the solutions that are necessary for you to be able to change your approach to those kind of challenging episodes that you face. So, I mean, there definitely is solutions here, and this is what the whole Eqafe site is about in this process with Destiny and what we've been walking for years, Tormod and I and many others. And that's why we're sharing, is because there are solutions and they work and they support with becoming better human beings in this reality, because that is really what we need to create is human beings that are matured, have become self-sustaining, because obviously we see within our reality in our world that we're not sustaining ourselves, we're not sustaining our home, we're not sustaining our home within. So yeah, I mean,
I would like to say something about that. You mentioned briefly there about strength and how we, when we face something that is challenging, we are sort of inferiorized by ourselves, and we go in like a weakened position, like I'm lowering myself. And that is something that I'm also discovering right now these days, is that there are really no weaknesses, because the point of weakness is like something that is suppressed and denied, perhaps something that is suppressed and abandoned and hidden, like a weakness, like I'm so weak at this point is really hurting me, and I feel suffering within this point. And that point of whatever handicap that might be is really a strength. It's really a strength that is just weakened, that needs to be strengthened, sort of, you might say. And you know, that is something that I'm looking at right now, is that because there are no good or bad, right or wrong, good or evil, and so on, there's only what is best for all, obviously. And the judgment of God and Satan is just cartoonish and make-believe. So, in other words, there are no real weaknesses, because what is just judged as evil or not good or negative or whatever can still be of physical nature and of myself and my flesh, and therefore all those parts of me that I see within myself that is like stacked away or whatever, hidden and suppressed, are really points of myself that I need to embrace completely, like we do every morning, to embrace completely, say, I forgive this point, and just work and to open up the point and work in writing and see what it is, what patterns are laying there, what is it, and open it up, forgive it in detail, and work on it and embrace it and become one with it, so that we can properly forgive ourselves and learn and live the change. And that is really interesting. That I just discovered now, that even though those, how I just a glimpse into myself and my process about weakness, the word weakness and strength, how those words operate, and under suppression or denial or pressure, sort of. Yeah, interesting.
right. And one other point that I wanted to discuss and mention that you mentioned was the word live and evil. And within our minds, obviously, there come so much pictures and memories and experiences can be attached to those words, especially the word evil. People are afraid of it. But if you do take on the point of self-responsibility and yourself in that word evil, you can bring it down back to the physical, back to the practical, direct understanding of the word evil. Evil is just, it's in the word, it's live backwards. You're not living your utmost potential. You're not being the utmost potential of who you are, which is the best of you. And you're living evil. Like, you're not living the best, so you're living, say, the worst of yourself. And
reverse.
Exactly, and that is correctable. You can understand yourself within that evil living and do the self-forgiveness, forgive yourself for existing and living in that way, and then you can correct yourself to now live the best of yourself and correct that word evil into live the best, being who you are as the life that is existent within you and expressing it outwards to be part of your creation, the best of yourself, so the best in creation. And that's the solution to ourselves and to this world, is living our best, our utmost. Because at the end of that, the world, if we within ourselves live the best, the utmost, we support our reality, our environment to be the best. Everybody learns how to be the best, their highest potential, turn that evil word into live. Practical way of doing that, not about being some kind of separate, scary type entity, but actually each one has the evil in life within them. And through that, we can start correcting ourselves and correcting our reality and creating a new world that is the best of ourselves and the best of reality. It's really just a process within ourselves, a physical process that has to be lived, and then eventually it will be created within our realities, and over time the world will start to change and become the best. So that's what we've been saying and sharing in this process, and what we've been learning through the Eqafe and things like that, is that the solutions are possible. And even in impossible, it says I am possible. So it's like everything's in the words. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awesome.
It's a riddle of all times, really. It's because this is it. We have to make it at this point, this stage. We have to make it. I mean, there have been several timelines before this, like we talked before about reptilians interview. There have been many timelines before this timeline, Babylonian or Egyptian or whatever, advanced aliens and so on. This is it. We have to make it this time, and there is no debate about it. We just have to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Tormod. So I think that if you don't mind reading, you shared some of those living word process definitions that you've created. If you want to we can wrap up this hangout with you reading those definitions.
Okay, so this is me doing. I think there was somebody from Eqafe that asked to redefine these words and practice.
It was this interview.
It was this interview, actually. Yeah, Seth saying this. So this is life, living, and alive, redefined. Life, the unconditional honoring of the physical, the existence and expression of all beings from the core of equality and oneness, the experience of breathing, pulsing, and expanding, the self-honesty within each being. Living, to work, honor, respect, investigate, consider, regard, and care for the sustainability of one's environment and all existence as such. And alive, to breathe and be able to express and create freely, to contribute to a sustainable world and a good quality experience as such in every way for all. That was that.
Awesome. Thank you, Tormod, for sharing your redefined living word examples, and for also being an example yourself with how you share yourself and support many through that.
Equally, thank you, Gart.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for listening to this hangout, and highly suggest you check out the interviews we've been discussing, the series, and all of Eqafe, because it's awesome. And the School of Ultimate Living, I'll place that link as well. And yeah, thanks for being here. And Tormod, enjoy the day. Enjoy everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.